for the November 10th, 2021 meeting of the Traffic Safety and Parking Commission. We're going to start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Commissioner Rebellos, could you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
I did not anticipate that. Okay.
That's why.
1 second.
That's
Just
why
in the middle of
Do you remember the Pledge of Allegiance? Do you remember the Pledge of Allegiance?
I do remember it.
All right.
I do remember it.
You
I
should be
just
good.
have to get in position here. Okay. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Commissioner Rebellos. Item 3, we'll go to roll call.
Can everyone hear me okay?
Ms. Brewer, if you could do the roll call, please.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I hear you just fine.
Perfect. Commissioner Rebellos.
Here.
Commissioner Lee.
Here.
Commissioner Israelit.
Here.
Vice Chair Martos.
Here. And make a note for the record, Chair Wetton is not present.
Through the Vice Chair. When you're ready, I've got have that little spiel about us being on Zoom webinar, just for anyone that's listening.
Yeah, do you want to do that now or just before we go to public comments?
That's fine. Before public,
Okay.
that's fine.
Well, let's go to item 4, approval of the minutes from September 9th. Does anyone have any corrections to the minutes? Or if you submitted corrections, I see heads shaking no. Commissioner Rebellos, any? No? All right, then unfortunately we can't do unanimous consent, so we will just have to take a motion to approve.
You need me to make a motion to approve?
Anybody?
I make a motion to approve the minutes.
Is there a second?
I second.
All right, motion to approve by Commissioner Rebellos, seconded by Commissioner Israelit. Ms. Brewer, could you do a roll call vote, please?
Commissioner Rebellos.
Aye.
Commissioner Lee. Commissioner Lee.
Commissioner Lee, you're on mute.
Abstain.
Commissioner Israelit.
Aye.
Vice Chair Martos.
Aye. All right, minutes are approved 3-0-1. Item 5, before we go to public comments, Mr. Wong, do you want to read the statement?
Thank you. For tonight's meeting, we are once again on Zoom webinar. And for that, the chat feature has been disabled. So the only 2 ways for the public to comment is either to raise your hand and then we will allow a period of time for the person to speak, or send an email to publiccomment@burlingame.org, and public comment is 1 word, and that is that.
All right, so I'm going to need a little bit of help. All I see are the 9 panelists. I don't see anybody in the waiting room. Ms. Brewer,
There
Mr.
is.
Wong. Is there anybody with public comments?
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah,
There is.
let Ms. Brewer take that. I don't see anyone raising their hand. There is 1 attendee, but I'm
Correct. There's 1 attendee, but nobody's raising their hands, and I don't have any emails in the public comment folder, so there's nothing.
Okay, then I'm going to forego reading the statement about the Brown Act, since we're going to pass up that section of public comments and go right to our discussion item 6, community BPAC. So I'm closing item 5. We're moving on to item 6, community BPAC. Is Ms. Beatty around, or somebody from BPAC that wants to speak to the commission?
I don't think Leslie Beatty is able to make it. I did have a conversation with her about the new parking garage. So is that something to bring up later when we staff report, or can I talk about it?
If it's BPAC related, sure, you
Yes.
can bring it up now. That's fine, Commissioner Lee.
Well, I happily went to see the new parking garage, and it was dark when I went. I had a couple of observations. I brought one up to Leslie Beatty, and that was there's a lot of space on the ground floor to put in a bike rack or two. There might be some people who bike rack as workers who want their bike covered for the day, like not outside left on Burlingame Avenue, but to have a bike rack there for someone who might want it covered or heard it's going to rain that day. So I was thinking we should ask staff to look at putting in a bike rack down there in the ground floor level. There looks like there's a lot of space, and it seems like it was forgotten. And I think all of our projects going forward, we need to think that way more. I mean, I've ridden to town and I've had trouble finding bike racks just with me and my little basket on my bike. So I'd like the staff to look into that, and Leslie Beatty agreed with that. She thought it's a great step, and we should just think about it every time we do any kind of parking lot, put in a bike rack.
All right. Commissioner Lee, are you still a member of BPAC?
I don't think I am a member of BPAC. I just can't vote on BPAC.
Okay. All right.
That sound right?
Yep. All right. So duly noted. That'll go into the record. Unfortunately, let's see, we can't take any actions. I guess it's informational only. So can we discuss anything or ask questions at this point, Mr. Wong?
Well, you could probably ask questions, but I do have a response for that because
All right.
Miss Michael, Segal Michael, also, she has pointed that out. We are aware of that. And there is a space that was identified for bike racks on the lower level. And it's just because of the project that it is that they didn't fill it with bike racks because of how it was funded. So we are planning on installing some on that lower level on I believe the Highland side.
Okay, is the Highland side closer to the tracks or further? It's closer.
Closer to the tracks.
Okay, yeah, all right, that was good. And then just I guess I'll bring it up when we do staff report about it. Because that was the only thing I talked about with Leslie Beatty about. All right, thank you.
Are there any other comments or questions regarding the BPAC? Yes,
Commissioner
Commissioner
Revelos?
Revelos.
Okay.
Mr. Wong, I'll get back to you just a moment. Commissioner Revelos?
Yeah. I think that it had not occurred to me to have bike racks in the parking garage there. But I think what I'm concerned about is bike racks make the bikes very vulnerable. So, I mean, I would think bike lockers, if we would be able to secure funding for bike lockers. I don't know how those work necessarily. Maybe they can be on a pay-per-use basis, but I think bike lockers would be better.
Noted, and something
Mr.
like that.
Wong, go
Obviously.
ahead. You wanted to comment, Mr. Wong? Go ahead.
Sure, and something we can look into, but obviously bike racks and bike locker, especially a system that you need to be able to allow the individual user in. It gets a little complicated and costly, and so we can look at that, and maybe we start off with one, and then monitor how it goes. If people are desiring something better, we can do that. But yeah, we wouldn't want to necessarily put a nice high-end bike cage in there, and as many other things, maybe have it empty. But it's something we can consider as it moves forward.
Okay, thank you.
Like,
All right.
more questions? Oh,
All right. No further questions. We'll go on to item 6B, California Drive parking update. And I believe Mr. Sy has a presentation, I hope.
he does, and I just wanted to bring this one up, just a clarification for which section this is. I think there's, forgive me, it's on my part because I was pretty sure we know what section we were talking about when I put it on here. The area we're talking about is just north of Broadway, about the parking in there, and then what to do about the queuing that we've been seeing. And this is something that came behest of Commissioner Israelite and Commissioner Lee, just trying to some things to improve in this. And so with that, we've taken a look into it. Mr. Sai has a little presentation, and tonight we're just looking to see if you guys have any additional input before we come back. And we expect that we'll come back to you with something final so we can get your blessing on it. So with that, I'll turn it over to Mr. Sai.
Thank you, Andy. Let me just pull this up on the share screen. And then just confirm if everyone can see this or if anyone can't. All right, we're all good. So this item is the California Drive north of Broadway. We're calling it a traffic lane reconfiguration. Let's see here. So this is a project area overview. Looks very familiar to us. This is a bird's eye view. This is the section that we're having some congestion issues. Broadway to Rynette, all the way back to Juanita. Just let that sink in. Tonight, we want to continue a discussion that we had in February of 2020 at a TSPC meeting. Overall, we want to address traffic congestion concerns for southbound traffic going towards Broadway on California. We want to present to you tonight a concept design of what the reconfiguration might look like after we've considered all the feedback. We also want to look at parking impacts and potential solutions. And overall, we want to improve, how the roadway is being utilized. Is it being underutilized? Are there timing changes that we can do? All those kinds of things. And lastly, just keep in mind, we are trying to develop a facility that meets all modes of transportation. So this is a more zoomed in portion of the bird's eye view of California approaching Broadway. And this is the area of focus tonight, where we're going to show you some concept plans. So you can see to the right, you have the 2 left turn lanes, followed by a through right lane with the bike lane against the curb. And feeding into that, we have the single traffic lane right there. So what are some things? The most common complaint we're getting is congestion. That's the southbound traffic there with the red arrow pointing at the back of the queue, sometimes commonly said to extend past Mills in the afternoon peak. So again, the area of focus, we want to focus our attention right here, which is a critical point approaching Broadway. It's where our single lane diverts into the 3 lanes, the 2 left turn lanes and a through lane. So this is one thing we noticed. So this is approaching Broadway. We have a red light and we have all this space right here in green that is allotted for vehicles that want to turn left. But it is pretty much completely empty. We only have 4 cars here. You could fit, upwards of 15 to 20 cars in here. So why is this happening? Well, we have a car here at no fault of this car. The car is blocking a line of cars behind it. Some of them are trying to go straight, some of them are trying to turn left, but they can't get to this green space because there is only 1 lane available. And this car cannot go forward because the queuing space for through traffic is full. Here's another scenario. You see it's a little different now. the green space available right here, queuing space available for left turning vehicles getting ready to turn left on the green. That's pretty well utilized. There's only space for maybe one, maybe two. And this car here, he's actually trying to turn left. So he could have filled into this green space, but he didn't, and it wasn't at a great expense. We only lost 1 to 2 cars of capacity here. So with that being said, going back to that point of focus, we then went back to the drawing board. We took everything we heard from the last commission meeting, along with the subcommittee meeting with the Broadway concerns that they presented. And we came up with this here. To no surprise, we're proposing that we look at adding a travel lane. What this effectively does is separate those left turning vehicles and the through vehicles. So we should no longer have vehicles blocked from entering that left turn lane. This is the biggest impact, we think, for the traffic congestion. Obviously, as we've discussed in depth before, by adding the travel lane to have 2 total, we do need to bump the 6-foot bike lane out towards the side of the road. And in order to do that, we need to remove parking. So this slide is just summarizing all those benefits and trade-offs. We do have that additional lane. We will have increased efficiency of the existing signal capacity. What that means is, we have a whole bunch of green time, but that time is useless if the cars cannot get into that queuing space to get ready to turn. We do get reduced congestion, and that does come at the cost of about 10 parking spaces. So previously, when we talked about this, we were just looking at that one block between Juanita and Rynette. That block does have 6 spaces, but this lane shift would also impact half of the previous block that has about 4 spaces. That's something to consider. This slide is just summarizing all of the previous feedback that we received and that we saw from public comment and commissioners and outreach. And that is that traffic congestion is the most commonly heard concern. All right, everyone in Burlingame knows that that afternoon peak does get congested at times, and the queue can extend, mills or beyond. The bike lane is important for connectivity. As you all know, we are working on completing the southern portion of California Drive, and this is pretty key to maintain that connectivity. We've a lot of mention about restricting left turn onto Rynette for northbound vehicles on California, and that is certainly still on the table. And we heard from several business owners that removal of parking spaces would severely impact their business. However, we did point out that some of the businesses have some on-site parking options, and there is potential in parking lot S and on Rynette and Juanita side streets. So that should bring us to the next effort that we went on, which is considering to modify parking lot S. That is also on the table. So following the commission meeting, we went out and did a 2-day parking utilization study just to get a snapshot of what the parking's like at California Drive in front of the businesses and what it's like at parking lot S, which is immediately next to them at the Goodwill site. So first, starting with the parking lot. On this particular day, between 8 to 5 p.m., we went out once every hour and just took a look at how many spaces were available. You see that in the morning, it's quite a few available, and then it goes up and down throughout the day. While that's happening on California Drive in front of the businesses, here's the occupancy rate, not how many spaces are there, but how many cars are parked there. Maybe give us an idea of the kind of demand that we might need to replace. So on these particular days, or on this particular day, you can see that per hour, about 2 to 3 cars, which could easily be supported by the parking lot S on that particular day. We went out 2 days later. This day was a little busier in parking lot S. There were some spots available, but much less than 2 days before. At the same time, on this day on California Drive, there were also more cars. Of course, it can't ever exceed 6 because that's the number of spaces available in front of the businesses there. But it didn't seem necessarily impossible. Again, this isn't accounting for any available spaces on the side streets. So again, this was just a snapshot, just kind of give us a general idea of what it might be like on a given day. Well, that really brings us to, wrapping it up with the next steps. Obviously tonight, we're gonna gather all the input that you have, hopefully incorporate them into a more final concept design. At some point, we'll bring back a draft report for the commission's official consideration that it might make a motion on, and then ultimately bring something forward to the city council. So with that, we can take it back to Andy to answer any questions. Is there public comment?
I can't tell. Ms. Brewer, is there anybody from the public that wishes to speak?
Yes, it looks like Benito has his hand raised and a Ted Catlin has his hand raised as well.
All right, I see 2 hands raised. Okay, very good. Let's go with Mr. Valesco first. Mr.
Oh, hi there.
Valesco,
Good evening.
you have the floor for 3 minutes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
we hear you fine.
Yes, we
Thank
can.
you. Yeah, so I'm a resident here. I live 3 blocks away. I walk here, I drive here. Obviously, I ride through here. I think the main issue at this location is not the parking, it's the signal at California Broadway and Carolyn, which continues to operate inefficiently. There are several seconds of every cycle when you stand there by the gas station or Maverick Jacks, where you'll see no cars are coming through the intersection because the red lights are so long, even when the light is green for nobody. And that's not just as a driver, as a pedestrian, if you're crossing to and from Maverick Jacks, it's the same thing. You'll wait a long time, nobody's coming. In fact, if you're coming from Maverick Jacks to the Audi parking lot, the green light is on for drivers, but you're not able to cross. So what most people do is they just cross against the light. So, and this is not a detection issue because I know the city upgraded the detection, spending several thousands of dollars to do that a couple of years ago. So it's not the cameras, but it doesn't matter if the cameras are deluxe or not or upgraded. That signal is obsolete and is severely limited to what it could do, as staff has said previously. So it's not programmed optimally. The signal is from the 70s, so it's at the end of its useful life. So it doesn't matter how many lanes we feed into it. If we have this issue that the signal is severely limited and it can't apportion time appropriately, it's always going to be a problem. And I know there's a railroad there. I know there's a grade step that's coming in 10 plus years. But I think we're investing Burlingame taxpayer dollars in the wrong rail location. Instead of spending $1 million at the Oak Grove and Carolyn intersection, this is really where the money should be going. This would be like, if you improve this intersection, this would make the biggest difference to every Burlingame driver, walker, biker, transit signal, a transit rider. That's the most bang for the buck that we would be able to do. I am also opposed to the signal, to the bike lane curbside, because we know what happens at the laundromats or auto body shops when you put the bike lane next to the curb. It's never open. There's always going to be somebody there saying, it's just a second, just a minute, I'll be here. So that alignment is not safe. And I hope you will check with BPAC and make sure that they have feedback on that, because I don't think they've seen that plan before. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Valesco, for the comments. Next speaker, Mr. Catlin, and tell me what DTA stands for, sir.
Oh, apologies. That's the name of the company I work at, which is just on the corner of Juanita and Broadway. It's Dryling Turnus Architecture. I'm speaking both as a person who commutes around here, but then also as someone who works for different clients along this area, along this stretch of Broadway, of California, excuse me. And yeah, I'm a bicycle commuter, and I've been hit in this area that's in question. I've had to brake quickly to avoid cars that pull into the bike lane. It's a really dangerous section, and I really agree with a lot of the things that the previous commenter was saying. I don't think this is a question of adding more lanes. There's the whole concept of induced demand. Adding more lanes doesn't reduce congestion. It simply increases congestion because the amount of drivers will meet the number of lanes that are being provided. And so I think whether there's options to, address the way the signal is being met, or even provide better signage for people to realize, yeah, California goes two ways. There's another freeway access at Millbrae just quite nearby. And additionally, the businesses that are along there, a lot of them have been really hammered. There was a lot across the way on California that got taken away a few years back, I think 5 years ago. And so taking away their parking as well, I just don't know entirely whether we want to be, as a city, just providing additional, ways for drivers to be moving places when there's a lot of businesses and commuters who don't commute by car that are going to be affected by this. So I think that's mainly what I wanted to say. But yeah, I'll just add an additional, people driving their cars will drive into the bike lane. I've seen drivers drive onto the sidewalk. So I understand that this is a really intense and portion of the road that people feel quite passionate about because of the terrible situation that exists right now. But I don't know if this is the right way to do it. Thank you very much for all of your consideration.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Catlin. Appreciate that. Ms. Brewer, are there any other members of the public that would want to comment or ask questions?
I don't have any emails. I mean, I did get an email from Benito, but he pretty much covered everything in his verbal comments that was in the email. So I don't think I need to read that. And I don't see any additional hands raised.
All right, then I want to go to my colleagues next. And let me get full screen here. Does anybody want to volunteer to go first? I see a hand come up. Commissioner Rebelos, your electronic hand is waving at me, so I think you get the floor first.
Am I back? I lost my audio.
Yeah, I hear you just fine.
Okay, very good. I hit the wrong button. So I have a couple of questions. Do you think this is a good time for me to ask a question, or should I wait?
No, go proceed. Proceed. We don't have
So
any more public comments, so proceed with your questions, comments. Yeah.
Thank you. So I'm wondering why, and this is something I've wondered for a while, why are there so many cars on California Drive waiting to make that left turn or to go straight through? I'm wondering where those cars are coming from, because California Drive does not really extend past Millbrae Avenue. So are those cars coming from Burlingame? Are they coming from El Camino Real, trying to reach the freeway? Do we know the answer to that?
Mr.
I
Sai?
may.
Or Mr. Sai, do you have an answer to that, or Mr. Wong?
Yeah, so the question is both where are the left turning vehicles headed and where did they come from?
Yes.
That's the question.
That's correct, yes.
Yeah, so we have used Streetlight to kind of map out where those vehicles end up after making the left. A strong number of them end up southbound 101. We did not run that analysis for the origin, but we can. But the presumed major generators are school and hospital.
Okay.
The chair.
Yeah, Commissioner Lee, go ahead. I think you had something else to add.
Thank you. Yes, I work there, and it's tons of the traffic comes from at school dismissal time. So it's a school BIS and whatever elementary schools are out there. It's dismissal time is the worst. It's worse than it at dismissal time of school compared to 5 p.m. So it's a lot of school traffic. And if you looked at Mr. Sai's videos, you'd see a lot of minivans.
Oh, you muted yourself, Commissioner Lee.
Thank you. No, I think she was done with her comments.
Oh, okay.
That's not my comment. I was just referring to Commissioner Revelos's question. It's a lot of school traffic.
Commissioner Revelos, back to you.
So I would just add, I mean, I've experienced being, I mean, I avoid that intersection at all costs, frankly. But I have friends and colleagues and family who've been stuck at that intersection. And I appreciate Commissioner Lee's response about it being school traffic, but definitely have seen it pretty bad, taking as much as a little over 15 minutes to get through that intersection, backed up for 4 or 5 blocks. And the bike lane is most certainly an issue there. And when I say it's an issue for the bicyclists. I walk that area a lot. I've seen what happens at that stretch of California Drive southbound there. So I'm very familiar with it. But I just find it hard to believe, because especially if so much of that traffic is going to, and I'm not committed, I'm not, this isn't directed at Commissioner Lee, because it's not. To me, there's something missing in the study, because if that traffic is coming from the schools, then why are they going on to 101 South? Because 101 South from there leaves Burlingame. So that's confusing to me, and maybe somebody can explain it to me.
Oh, to
Permission to
clarify.
speak? Permission to speak through the chair?
Hold on a second. Commissioner Israelit, go ahead.
Hi, sorry, I had my hand raised earlier, but it's hard to see with this presentation screen. Commissioner Reveles, also, this is mentioned before, but a lot of nurses, the hospital shifts end at 3. So they're early morning to 3 to, it's a 8-hour shift clock through the 24 hours. So basically, there's a lot of hospital staff that comes from the East Bay that might be heading to San Mateo Bridge. And so that's part of the traffic as well. I just wanted to answer your question, but I guess, it doesn't really matter where it's coming from because it's like consistent for years. So it's going to be there no matter what.
I appreciate that. And thank you for that. And so I just wonder if there is a couple of ways to maybe divert some of that traffic to go through a more sensible route to 101 South, which is the Millbury Avenue overpass, if they're coming from the hospital. And I'm not asking for an answer. I'm just throwing that thought out there. Maybe someone thought of that. Probably they did. The other question I have is, what does it mean to modify the parking at Lot S? I mean, I'm not sure what that means to modify it. It doesn't sound to me like there's an issue of there not being enough parking available.
Yeah, so when we say modify parking lot S, we're talking about the hourly restrictions. Whether certain spots are 8, 6, 2, changing them to hourly, that kind of modification.
I appreciate that. Thank you. So that's okay. I'm satisfied with that. I also, just thinking out loud, I mean, I wonder, the businesses there when surveyed apparently said that they thought the loss of the parking would have a negative effect on their business. But I kind of wonder which has a greater negative effect on their business. Is it the traffic, or is it the loss of a couple of parking spaces, especially when people can park in Lot S or perhaps around the corner on Broadway? And that would actually improve pedestrian traffic on Broadway, which I think is a good thing. So that's all of my questions and comments. And that's it for me. Thank you.
So Commissioner Rebels, let me ask you a question. Do you have an opinion about the plan, the concept design? Do you like it? Do you not like it?
So I like it. I didn't think we were at that stage yet. That's probably my fault. I would like to see something, though, separating the bike lanes from the traffic lanes there, because I do agree with one of the public commenters mentioned that cars would just park in the lanes, and that is definitely going to be an issue. You have a couple of businesses there. I think there's a wash and fold or a laundry place, and I could see people trying to squeeze in there to carry their laundry to their car, maybe instead of carrying it around the corner or around the side to the parking lot there. But so if it's at all possible, I would say I endorse this plan only because I think it's better than what we have now. But I would only endorse it if there would be something to, maybe some sort of temporary traffic delineators or something there to prevent cars from double parking.
Yeah, and that's something that's still on the table. Absolutely. We can see on the left part of the concept, there are some dimensions drawn there, and we're looking at, starting from the top, 6.7 for the bike lane, 10.2 travel lane, 10 foot, 10 foot, and then 6 foot. So 10 is a comfortable minimum for a travel lane, depending. And for bike lanes, I believe the minimum in this scenario would be 5. So we're already very squeezed here. We'll see if there's an area to introduce some kind of raised delineation, but I believe we need a minimum of 1.5 feet in order to do that. That's gonna come from somewhere else. So that, and maybe we can bring that to the BPAC to see how they feel about a raised delineator because we've heard that go both ways as well. Because with the narrower with bike lane, sometimes you have handlebar issues with the raised delineators. But yeah, like I said, that's still on the table. We can bring that to the designer and also back to the BPAC if we have something.
And Chair, can I add one more comment?
Yeah, go ahead. You still have the floor.
So I know that it's once you get Caltrans involved, it's a much bigger project. But I would love to see if Caltrans would be, or maybe it's not a Caltrans project, but I would love to find out if there's a way to put signage at Truesdale near El Camino, so that employees from Sutter Medical Center and the various medical facilities around there would be directed to turn left onto El Camino, to go north on El Camino, to Millbrae to go to the freeway. If we could get signage there so that they don't go straight across El Camino and go right on California Drive to go to the 101 South, which, by the way, you would think most people who don't want to be in traffic would be doing already. But apparently they're not aware of this option, or that for, I don't know what reason you would go down California, go into that traffic jam at California and Broadway to get to the 101 South, when you could just turn left on El Camino, make that right on Millbrae, and it's a roadway that's built much better, much more accommodating to get to the 101 South. That's all of my comments this time.
Thank you, Commissioner. Appreciate that. Commissioner Lee, Commissioner Israelit, who wants to go next?
I'll defer to Commissioner Lee.
Oh, okay. Commissioner Lee.
Hi, thank you. I'm looking at our Broadway Subcommittee meeting notes, and also thinking about the two public comment people. I would like to see if the staff, I have a question, I guess, for Mr. Sy. Did the staff look at, because part of the problem isn't just here, expanding the capacity of the roadway for the motor vehicles. Part of the problem is also, how do the vehicles queue up? If we go back a slide, Mr. Sy, can you go back where you showed a spot where that red truck did not go in the left, far left, left turn lane? Yeah, see him, the red truck? There's a reason they don't go in the left turn lane. They tend to back up on the right-hand left turn lane. So that's lane number 2, I guess. And the reason is, at the other end, when you want to get onto southbound 101, which is the predominance of the left turners do want to go that way, it's a very quick to dash over 3 lanes to get over to the southbound 101 with lots of other vehicles turning right into. So one of the things on our subcommittee list was to look at the eastbound traffic on Broadway, where it turns into 3 lanes just before you hit Rollins. We would like that right-hand lane, the one furthest south, to turn it into a right turn on Rollins Road only, so that the motor vehicles aren't struggling to get over 3 lanes when they turn left. They're only having to go 2. And then it would also help the queuing of the people who want to turn right onto Rollins. So only the lane, there's 3 lanes that go straight right now, eastbound on Broadway. When you're on the other side of the tracks, we want 2 to go straight ahead, the left-hand 2. The right one, we'd like to make southbound only onto Rollins. That would help this driver of this red truck be able to choose to turn left in that left-hand turn lane. That would help that issue. Because it is hard to dash over to the right to get over 3 lanes. So I think that would be a big help, and it would also help the right turn on Rollins people. The other thing that we looked at, and that wasn't brought up by our staff, if they did look at that or not. The other thing was I really thought Manito Velasco's public comment was great about, let's look at upgrading these lights. Let's get better computers. We won't have, we're lucky if we get this overpass built in 10 years. But rather than putting our bicyclists in danger and squeezing them further, or having cars drive up on the sidewalk, or like I do, dash all around them and go into the lane coming right at me, to get smarter lights and put them on a better algorithm. That would be good. The other thing I've often thought, the right-hand left turn lane to turn east onto Broadway, why don't we make that a straight ahead and a left, not just a left? Make it go both. There are 2 lanes south on California Drive, south of Broadway, that they could merge into. The other thing is, I kind of agree with the theory that, we're expanding the capacity of the roadway on a street that is a designated bike lane. And since El Camino cannot handle bikes and keep those people alive, this is our only north-south route in town. And this is the one that we have to prioritize the bikers as their only way to go north-south through all of Burlingame. That includes north here as well as south of Burlingame, like the whole way. So this has to be built for bikes. And it seems like it challenges bikers to put the bike lane and to extend it further when we haven't tried these alternatives. And then secondly, I looked on my calendar and it looks like March 4th and March 6th were a Wednesday and a Friday. So there was no thought about what those businesses do on Saturday or Sunday when they did the study. And personally, I think Michael, you were there, when we did the bike ride, like from BIS, and we rode over here and we all rendezvoused at Goodwill. I had to drive it because I'm not that good of a biker. And I think it was before my knee surgery. I couldn't find a parking place. I couldn't park at that Goodwill lot. I couldn't find one on Broadway. The block was full. I had to go like a block and a half to find a parking place to rendezvous when we did our traffic study from BIS and we rode our bikes here. Maybe Mr. Wong, maybe you were there too. I'd have to look at my photos to see who was there, but I couldn't find parking. So I don't remember what day of the week we were. It must've been a weekday because we had staff with us. And we had a couple city council members with us, but I couldn't find parking anywhere. It was really tough. So anyway, I think the parking, it's very difficult there. I think we cannot challenge bikers in any way and make it any worse for them. I do think we ought to look at alternatives, which includes what our Broadway subcommittee had suggested, which is making the left turn lanes more used. And let's look at fixing that light and getting a smarter light. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Lee. Commissioner Israelit, would you like to make some comments or ask questions?
Boy, would I. I have a couple, but
You have the floor.
Thank you. So I'm going to address a couple thoughts that I've had, but in no particular order. The whole the issue about parking that was brought up by, actually, it was only 2 or 3 at absolute most of the nearby businesses. By seeing the study that was done, and also in combination with when we as commissioners had to look at parking in Broadway and we're tallying and numbers on a number of available spots in this lot was never full. So it might've been full the day that Commissioner Lee went, but in general, there was always vacancies there. And we were laughing, calling it Lot S secret because no one knows it's there. But my point is that, I do not feel that the businesses will be greatly harmed by taking away those 10 parking spots because Lot S exists and there are vacancies in it. And there are also, in addition, the side streets. as well as on-site parking for several of those businesses. So I just wanted to say that. I think that the plan is presented by the city. I don't really understand. It improves bike lane safety by not having them have to weave through a line of traffic to get over to the other side with the dashed green spot. They're safely tucked against the curb. There is no door zone that we have to worry about because there's no parking. To me, it's an improvement in safety for the bike lane. And it makes me feel much more comfortable because as one of the reasons we even started looking at this project is because some cars were getting frustrated and pulling into the bike lane to try and access through travel lanes. So bike safety, I think, will be definitely improved by this. As far as the concern that, heck, we took away these parking and now people are going to just park in a bike lane and try to do an errand real quick. I haven't seen that anywhere in Burlingame ever before. I'm not saying that it couldn't happen, but that's really a matter of enforcement. And that's when we ask our police department to ensure that they enforce that because I think that, that just makes sense. We can't say, well, what if somebody double parks? If somebody double parks, we will ticket them. Furthermore, most likely these would be the same people that would be frequenting, for instance, the laundromat or the hairstylist multiple times, repeat customers. So they would get that message once they saw that we were enforcing it for real. As far as signal improvement, yes, we could definitely, that would be ideal. But we did talk about that in the past where we had worked on changing the timing, or the city, excuse me, I don't mean to take credit for Mr. Wong's work, but the city had tried to improve the timing several times. We know that we have antiquated equipment. And if there were funds available, of course, that would be great. But I still think that changing the lanes, especially as we add high density housing and we have more and more commuters in our little town, this is sort of planning for the future. Regarding one of the comments made by one of the public commenters, I think, adding access to an intersection or access to a turn lane is very different than adding lanes in general, which we know doesn't improve traffic flow. But we're talking about a block long lane. We are not adding, lanes. We're improving access for existent traffic to existent traffic patterns. So we're not going to increase the number of commuters on this road by making this a safer intersection. And finally, going back to what Commissioner Lee had said, yes, I agree that when you want to turn left, heading southbound on California, and you plan on getting onto southbound 101, it is true that if you're in that innermost left-hand turn lane, it's very dicey to get over. You have people turning right on red at Carolan, and you have the people that are turning right on red right by Maverick Jacks, and you sort of have to pay such exquisite attention that you're not getting hit as you're trying to merge right into the same lane that they're trying to turn on. And then it's very short distance in which to get over. So I think there could be improvement in the lane configuration, but that can be a separate project. I just wanted to point out it is true that people they prefer the right or left-hand turn lane than the left-hand turn lane, if that makes sense. That's it. But overall, I think this is really well done. I think it'd be better for car flow, better for bike safety. And I think it's a good, relatively simple solution to something that's a big problem for our town.
Thank you, Commissioner Israelitz. And I had a few questions. So lot S, there's a lot behind lot S that used to have a Goodwill trailer on it that I don't think is there anymore. Mr. Wong, is that city property? Could that be made into more parking spaces, or is that owned by Goodwill?
Through the vice chair, that is, I believe that is private property or the Goodwill's property.
Okay. Okay. Darn. So has this plan been discussed in BPAC at all?
Through vice chair, it has not. Tonight would have been the first night, and again, we're seeking comments, so we will forward this to this committee as well.
Okay. Yeah, I think that they'll have a lot to say about this as well. And then to some of the points that were brought up by the Broadway Subcommittee, the lane that turns right, dedicated lane that turns right onto Broadway, the impact to making that both a straight through and a right turn lane, is that a significant change, Mr. Wong?
Vice chair, you're talking about southbound?
Southbound, yeah. Yeah.
So that's something that would actually make the signal less effective. In order to make that a through and left turn lane, you would have to split face the signal, which won't operate efficiently, which means the entire southbound movement would have to go. And right now, northbound, when the through movements go, they can go simultaneously. But with that, they couldn't go simultaneously. So again, that's one of those trade-offs that it has. Again, we've tweaked the signal several times in my time here along the corridor to try to squeeze what we can out of it. Potentially a signal upgrade here, but until with, again, the Broadway grade separation project under final design, we don't know when with the new infrastructure bill, maybe it comes sooner than later, but until we get a hard timeline on that, we're not going to put in something that we might rip out in a matter of time. So it's something we'll have to look at. I mean, obviously, if this grade separation, if it's not coming, it makes sense to look at trying to upgrade the signal here. But we're caught in that gray area right now.
Understood. Okay, I appreciate that. And then the other comment that intrigued me about that subcommittee was to make that rightmost lane on Broadway eastbound right turn only on Carolan. How significant, yeah, thank you, Mr. Sy. How significant of a change is that?
It's something we've kind of looked at, but what happens is as you've crossed this intersection, if these two through lanes are able to go across, you still have the issue of, because on the on-ramp, there's another right turn lane. So you're gonna have to, even if you're in that one lane, you're gonna have to get over one more lane. And so folks may just still stay in that that number 2 left turn lane on California, getting here and continuing that because of that additional lane. It's something we can take another look. We've taken a look at, maybe we could take a harder look at, but that's the thing there. It's not going to stop people from continuing to drop lanes, change lanes.
Okay, all right. And then I might have missed it, but Mr. Sy or Mr. Wong, how many spaces are there in parking lot S?
23.
Okay, and can you go back to the graphic that showed the utilization? You had a graphic with numbers. Yeah, there you go. Let me move this. Okay, that's better. 23 total. Okay. And do you know off the top of your head, Mr. Sy, that the timings are they 2 hour, 4 hour, 8-hour, how many of each?
Through the
Yeah.
vice chair? Oh,
Yeah, go
you
ahead.
have
Mr.
numbers
Wong.
exactly, Michael?
I don't.
They're mostly long-term spaces. I think there's a couple short-term spaces in there, which we've talked about, and that's something on the table that we can increase to provide some more space for those businesses. But, you know, just talking to the PEOs primarily, this is kind of goodwill, kind of, because it's adjacent to the building, both the employees use it as well as the patrons. And so potentially, as you've indicated, they no longer have the trailer there. And I'm not sure how hard we can have that discussion with them, but we can see if they can have their employees park in there, obviously freeing up some more long-term spaces in for the other employees, and maybe we can open up some more short-term spaces there, something we can consider.
Precisely that. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. That lot is vacant where they pulled the trailer out. So, okay, if we made more short-term parking in that lot, then patrons would have more opportunity to park. Okay, let's see. So, you know, I agree with some of my colleagues on it is an improvement. I like the design. It is an improvement over what we currently have. I never liked the crisscrossing of traffic with bike lanes. You know, I debate with myself over do we remove the parking? If we remove the parking on the street, then where can we relocate it? And, you know, one thing is to make less long-term parking in Lot S. If that long-term, I can't, you know, if that long-term parking is for goodwill employees, they should have an opportunity to park in that vacant lot where the trailer was. And so I'm in favor of the plan, the concept design, with a couple of considerations, and that would be to make more short-term parking available in Lot S. And I think that's all I had for this topic.
Through the vice chair?
You may go ahead. Yes.
Sorry, did you want to go ahead and speak, Commissioner Zerlett?
Go back.
I was just, I just had raised my hand. I was just going to say that there's also that long-term parking in the Caltrans lot across the street by Maverick Jacks, right? For our Goodwill
Correct.
employees, should they not have access to that private property?
Correct.
But
that is one.
Yeah.
I was going to add tonight, thank you for your comments and where you guys lie on that. Again, tonight, we're just looking for feedback. We plan to bring this back to you and try to get an official tally on it. What we will do is we will share this with the community DPAC and then bring those comments back to you with that they've included, and at a future meeting where we will have a staff report for you and break it down so we can get your support on this design.
Commissioner Israelit, I see your electronic hand up again. Did you want to say something else?
I forgot to lower my electronic hand,
That's
but I
okay.
do. But I want to thank the staff so much for working on this, because I know I've been a pest about it for the past 2 years. Excuse me, but I'm just want to just let you know how thankful I am, and I'm very excited about this.
All right. If there is nothing else on this topic, then let me bring up the agenda again. And let's see. Gallery. Seeing nothing else, I'll close item 6B and we'll move on to item 7A. Mr. Wong, the Engineering Division reports.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Tsai. I was just about to ask that. Not too much on this one. Broadway pedestrian street lighting project is underway. I believe they've been digging some foundations, getting those ready, but pretty soon, once their kind of holiday moratorium starts, they will cease operation or cease construction, and it's to try to allow the businesses to function as normally as they can, given that everything that we've gone through. And again, we've started to procure the lights, so hopefully that project gets done in the spring. We have new lights out there. Highland parking garage, as Commissioner Lee pointed out, it's open. We've got the first floor pretty good. Second floor, some vehicles are on there. We may have to, as time goes on, look and see how we can address. I know I went out there, I was working on the signs, and I said, oh, the signs are wrong because it's showing there's over 200 spaces available. And once I went into the facility, the upper levels aren't being used. So we'll see how it goes. And then we may have to do some adjustments and something else on our part to attract more there, or we'll look at some additional signage, or again, outreach, some things to do first. And if it still doesn't fill up, we may consider what we've done previously of shifting parking lots spaces. The TDA Article 3 grants, it's due on Monday. Ms. Maya is working hard on it. We'll be wrapping that up. I believe we've got all our letters of support. I also like to mention that one of our letters is from the city of Millbrae. We'll be teaming with them on that portion of Murchison, where they have, right now they have a facility on their side for one block. We're gonna try to work on expanding that all the way towards Mills on their side as well as our side. So hopefully that looks good, us working with a neighboring agency on a project, and it allows us to bring that one home. Last thing I'd like to add that's not quite on here, I just want to let you know regarding the Truesdale Loyola conversation we had. And one of the action items was to try to increase some red curbing on the northwest corner there. And so I believe the work order's in. I have to confirm. I think it's been done, but I just have to confirm. So we've extended the red curbing there. So that should improve the visibility or correct any issue out there. So with that, I'll turn it over to back to the Vice Chair. Unless anyone up.
Any questions? Commissioner Lee, you have a question or comment?
Mike, you're on mute.
Thank you. My question again refers to the new parking garage, the access to it for people trying to cross the street to get to or from the garage.
Mhm.
You know, I was just there the other night, you know, it's only like 5:30, but it's dark, and I was observing the street lights up above. First, the crosswalks are not high visibility. The stop signs are very low visibility. They're small and they're in the dark. But then the street lights, like crossing from that old candy store, which corner?
Northeast corner.
Highlands,
Mhm.
northeast corner to the Kids Cuts place, which is the northwest corner. The crosswalk's kind of dark. It's not illuminated by any light brightly illuminating the crosswalk. And same thing crossing from the northeast corner to the southeast corner. It's dark. You know, as a pedestrian, I wasn't illuminated. Feels dark. And I did see, you know, drivers behaving poorly there, and that is one of our top hit collision. Have we continued to look at this intersection for improvements for pedestrians? And now that it's dark, we need lighting improvements?
Sure. Through the Vice Chair, as I thought I mentioned in previous meetings, we have our citywide sort of quick builds. And this is one of the locations we've identified of trying to striping this as high visibility and potentially doing some other improvements there. So it's something we are currently working on. So that is, yeah.
Are you looking at the overhead lights? Because they're
That's
not
not part of the quick build yet. I mean, something we can consider. I can check with our courtyard to see what the wattage is on those bulbs, and maybe we put in other ones. But I imagine that we've converted all to LEDs, so they might be pretty current, but we'll see if we can pump those up.
It's not really that. It's just that they're not focused over the crosswalks. They're kind of like randomly in the middle of the roadway, but not where the humans are, which would be the crosswalks. So they're lighting up the road, but not really the crosswalk area. So is there a way to redirect them? I guess if you could ask staff to do that, like look and see if you can turn it and actually put it over the crosswalks.
That may be a little more difficult because they're usually fixed. And we can also try to look at, because obviously on that stretch of Howard, there's trees with full canopies, and maybe we can try to see if we can trim some of those back to make both the stop sign, at those corners a little bit more visible.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Lee. Commissioner Rebelos, you have the floor.
Yeah, I have a very simple question. I'm not sure if I heard correctly on the Truesdale and Loyola. Did you say the red striping has been completed or it will be completed?
The work order's in. It's probably been done, but I haven't physically gone out there and confirmed that it's been done. So,
Got it.
but just to let you know, it's definitely in the works.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions for Mr. Wong on the engineer's report? Hearing none, I'll close item 7A and we'll go on to item 7B. Sergeant Perna, the police department report. Sergeant?
Hello. One second, let me exit my camera. Hello. Let me see if I can share the. I'm not able to share the report. Can we have that brought up?
Are you asking to have it displayed right now?
Yeah, because I don't have the ability to do that. So unless you just, if
I'll see
everyone
if
has
Mr.
it in front
Brewer
of them,
can do
that's
that.
fine as well. We could just go off of that.
Mr. Wong or
I'm going to check with Ms.
Mr.
Brewer, see if she can.
Okay, well, in the meantime, we had like 14 documented collisions in October. There were, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. There's about 7 collisions on El Camino. One of them was a fatal, actually a double fatal accident, which occurred on October 18th at about midnight. Vehicle northbound on El Camino lost control, became overturned, and then struck one of the large eucalyptus trees upside down on the east side of El Camino near Carmelita. So between Carmelita and Broadway. So it was one of the worst accidents I've seen probably in my time here. It was the first night of rainy weather as well. And preliminarily, the investigation is still ongoing, but it appears speed was definitely a factor. The other collisions on El Camino involved typical yielding, like yielding to left turns or unsafe turning movements. Fortunately, there were no documented incidents involving pedestrians or bicyclists, so that's good. But they were all vehicle accidents and obviously vehicle object. Did anyone have any questions about anything? Did we have a chance to look at the report? Commissioner Easterwood, I see your hand up.
Yes, I did take a look at the report earlier, so thank you very much. I just had a question. It was a rumor. I just wondered if the police are able to come in. Was the wearing of seatbelts a factor in the fatal accident on El Camino?
Yeah, preliminarily, it does appear that none of them were wearing their seatbelts. If maybe 2 of the 3, but it doesn't appear that they were wearing seatbelts. And it was an older vehicle. It was like a late 90s sedan. So, some of the safety features weren't there that are available now. One of the things being like on a new vehicle, we could usually download the data, what's going on in the vehicle, such as like even, how much steering input, how much brake was applied, the speed they were traveling. We weren't able to recover any of that from a vehicle that old, unfortunately.
Thank you. It's very sad.
Yeah, it was very tragic. Commissioner Rebelos?
Yeah.
Thanks. So in the last, I think it's been the last 3 months, we've had 2 late night fatal collisions in Burlingame. And I believe speed was a factor in both of those. Obviously, it's very fortunate that, there were no other cars that were struck that were occupied or that there were any pedestrians. I'm wondering with this latest one at El Camino and between Carmelita and Broadway, I recognize that you say it's still under investigation, so you may not have an answer to this, and that's perfectly okay. Do you know where they, when they were approaching the intersection of Broadway, I'm assuming they were approaching Broadway, did they have a red light? Were they trying to stop? Were they trying to avoid hitting another vehicle? Do you have any information about that?
Yeah, so I mean, there was another vehicle involved. It was a factor, but not, we don't feel that preliminarily, we don't feel that it contributed to it was not the primary collision factor, but there was a vehicle that, so this vehicle was northbound. The vehicle that struck the tree was northbound at a high rate of speed. And there was another vehicle that was entering from, and trying to turn, so going, I guess, westbound on Carmelita, trying to turn north onto El Camino. And at midnight at that time, so this was a little bit after midnight, probably like 12:04, maybe even earlier, maybe a little bit later. But at midnight, the lights turned to flashing ambers for north and southbound El Camino, and I believe flashing red for Carmelita, for the cross traffic on El Camino. So that motorist, checked, basically saw that it was clear, proceeded into the roadway, and then this other vehicle came, at a high rate of speed from behind, swerved to avoid, swerved into oncoming traffic to avoid that vehicle, overcorrected. We think that's what made the vehicle become, out of control. Struck a curb and one of the eucalyptus trees, which made it become airborne, and then, like I said, sent it into a tree upside down on the driver's side into the tree. So there was another vehicle involved. This is difficult to describe, but when speed limits are set, if there's a 35-mile-an-hour speed limit, a driver entering a roadway has a reasonable expectation that a vehicle will not be traveling, twice the speed limit. So when that motorist said that the roadway was clear, it probably was. So when they checked, left, check right, even if they checked left again, probably was clear when they entered the roadway. And again, the speeding vehicle kind of essentially came out of nowhere northbound. That also, another factor is that, I don't know this to be, we don't, unfortunately we'll never know, but they could have thought that they were entering on a yellow light too, if the lights had just changed from, the typical timing to the flashing yellow. That could have, that we don't know, unfortunately we'll never know, but that could have been a factor. I think the main factor though is that the road, it hadn't rained in several months. The roadway was wet, and again, the speeding vehicle in a wet roadway just do not, especially one of the first rains of the year, they don't mix. There's always accidents when that happens, and it's always people driving beyond the capabilities of the way that they should be driving under the conditions. The other collision that you mentioned, that was on Howard. That was the one that was northbound. I mean, that again was the speed was beyond that of 5 or 10 miles over the speed limit. It was it was reckless, quite frankly.
Right.
Something that was like a car, just in a hurry, or that's not something that, for instance, like speed enforcement could have corrected. I mean, this was a car that was just just blazing.
Agreed.
Yeah. So
I fully agree with that.
Right.
I think what my concern is that I don't know that I wouldn't go so far as to say that there's a pattern so far, because it's not a pattern yet. But I'm concerned that people may be assuming that the streets of Burlingame are empty late at night and driving in a reckless manner with that assumption in mind. And maybe, we're approaching a point where we need to reconsider how we control some of our intersections. As I say, it's only a concern. I don't know that that there's anything that could have been done to prevent either of these accidents at this point, but something I'm concerned about.
I understand. I agree. Were there any other questions about the report or any other collisions?
All right. Thank you, Sergeant Perna. Very sad situation.
That's unfortunate. Thank you for your time.
Appreciate the report. All right, moving on, item 7C, Farmers Market. We haven't been at Farmers Market for quite a while. I have as a citizen, but not representing Teaspoon. We'll consider that in the new year if we want to have a presence at Farmers Market. I think I can probably still get the items that advertised our commission from Commissioner Launder. He probably still has them, but we can discuss that in the new year. Let's move on to 7D, the Chair Commissioner Communications. So I don't have anything. Does anybody else have any communications they'd like to share? I see a no. I see a no. Commissioner Lee, go ahead. The floor is yours.
Hi, yes, I don't know if we all got it in our emails, but received an email from Benito Valesco, who spoke earlier tonight, just referring to, was it AB 43 that passed and the governor signed? It was about the ability to reduce speed limit even as low as 20 in business zones. So one thing I thought of, the business zone I was thinking of that qualifies, one idea would be to reduce speed limits down to 20 from Burlingame Avenue south on California Drive all the way till we meet Peninsula Avenue. And that would help the bikers who are trying to get to the San Mateo bike lanes. I mean, we don't have any other infrastructure that would be friendly to bikers, but reducing the speed limit makes an area way better for bikers. Even if we don't change a single stripe on the roadway, it would be a step. So I'm wondering if we could consider that, reducing that speed limit from Burlingame Avenue south to the border so that our bikers could more easily A, use the road, and B, safely use it, and C, try to access San Mateo's lovely new bike lanes. It's a thought. But that's what Benito, he mentioned that in an email to us.
Okay, and we have that. I think we have that on record, Mr. Wong, if I'm not mistaken. Okay. All right. Anything else, Commissioner Lee? Commissioner Rebelos, did you have any communications from the public?
Yeah, I just wanted to acknowledge that at the top of Truesdale, the Skyline Terrace Apartments, they've installed 22 electric vehicle charging stations for residents. And so I just want to commend them for doing that.
Very good, very good. Thank you, Commissioner Rebelos. Anything else? If not, we'll go on. I'll close item 7. We'll go on to item 8. Subcommittee reports. Downtown parking. Well, we have not met. Commissioner Wetton is retired, I guess, from Teaspoon. And in the next calendar year, we will look at reestablishing that committee and discuss things like we heard tonight about the safety of crossing Howard to get to the new parking garage. And I'd like to understand maybe the effectiveness of the parking garage. How much utilization are we seeing in the parking garage? So there's things that I think we could study in downtown parking, but for tonight, we have nothing other than the parking garage is open, so go use it. I will move on to Broadway parking. Commissioner Israelit or Commissioner Lee?
Nothing new.
Okay, nothing. All right. School traffic, Commissioner Israelit.
Nothing new for that.
All right. Citywide transportation alternatives, Commissioner Rebelos.
I think I see why we did not have any meeting, so I don't have anything to add to that.
Yeah, we have some business to take care of in 2022 with these subcommittees since Chair Wetton is no longer with us. Darn it, but we'll restaff those and I'm sure there'll be plenty of things to discuss. Community, bicycle, and pedestrian advisory committee, Commissioner Lee or Commissioner Rebelos.
Just what I brought up earlier. That was it. Though I'd have to say, I really want to hear from bikers, and our BPAC about that design, changing the lane configuration on Southbound California Drive before Broadway. I don't bike there. It's too scary for me. I wouldn't do it, but I want to hear from people who do. I can't judge that easily as a bystander, what is comfortable for bikers and better for the bikers. So I really want to hear from them before I make any judgments on that area, on changes.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Lee. Concur with that. All right, that brings us to the end of item 8. Item 9, future agenda items. Any suggestions from my colleagues here for future agenda items? I know that we're probably going to have to vote on a new chair, new vice chair next month. And I believe we should have a new commissioner selected by then. Is that correct? Mr. Wong is shaking his head affirmative.
Vice Chair, tune in Monday night council meeting.
All right.
Be selecting one of 2 candidates.
All right. All right. Very good. Well, we're holding you to the standards of Commissioner Wetton, so they have to be at least as good as Commissioner Wetton. So
I have no say in the selection. So your council, defer to them.
And we trust our council members. Colleagues, for next month, other than elections, are there topics that we want to put on the agenda? And I guess if Commissioner Wetton's not with us, I'll stand in as vice chair to work with Mr. Wong on the agenda. Are there topics? Commissioner Lee, go ahead.
Yes, thank you. I would like to discuss the what we can do to make our community more friendly using AB 43, and particularly that Southbound California Drive. So if we could get AB 43 California Drive, and I mean, if we want to go further, spots of Truesdale could be reduced using that, like by the hospital and all, using that same formula. Those are my big ones, but perhaps you know of other areas, but I'd like that on the agenda. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
And sort of
Commissioner
along with
Zerlich, go
that,
ahead.
yes.
Yeah.
So sort of along with that also, we did talk about not being pro putting that stop sign in on Truesdale, and I'm sorry, I'm blanking on the Nick Cross Street name.
Leola.
Right. But we did talk about, possibly changing the speed limit because of the elementary school being there down toward El Camino. I think it was Vice Chair Martos who had specifically thought that would be a good compromise or a great safety idea in and of itself. So maybe we could put that on or looking at that. I don't know if it's too soon.
Okay. Noted. Mr. Wong, did you have things on the horizon that you think might end up on our December agenda?
Through the vice chair, I got an email this morning from Mr. Sanfilippo, economic development specialist, indicating that I believe two of the council members there wanted to discuss something about, and I have to get the details of it, about the duration of parking, whether it's short term or how much short term, or what the time duration is for some of these businesses. I believe it's probably referring to the ones in the downtown areas, but I got to get a little bit more detail on that. It wasn't quite clear, so I'm going to talk to Mr. Sanfilippo and get that clarified. And when we have our discussion, I can clarify or let you know what that was.
Okay. So 3 potentially good topics in addition to the exciting elections. And we'll try and make it a quick meeting next month, holiday meeting. So wear your best, your ugliest Christmas sweater. And thank you all for being here tonight. If there are any other go backs, anything else?
I would just like to comment on Sergeant Perna's really nice new goatee. Is very nice, Sergeant Perna.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
I just didn't want you to think we didn't notice, because we did. It looks good.
Makes you look younger. I should grow one. All right. Colleagues, very good. I think we are going to call this meeting adjourned at 8:36. Have a nice
weekend, everybody. Happy
weekend.
Veterans Day.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
All right.
Thank you
Take
all.
care.
Bye.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Steph. Yep, mute. You're on mute.
How do you stop recording?